Hey guys, we're going to go live here in a second. We already are live, but we are going to go through and start talking about conversions on seller finance. It's something that we get a lot of questions on, how to talk to sellers about seller finance, subject to, lease options, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to jump into that in a little bit, and I'm going to actually pop everybody's questions up on the screen. So if you guys have a question, please pop it up. I will absolutely throw it up on the screen, and we will go through and answer any questions you guys have today about seller finance subject to, especially as far as it goes with conversion. And I'll jump right into it. So if you guys have questions, yo, Jesse Burrell, I'm not that sexy, bro, but thank you. I appreciate it. So guys, it's 5 o'clock in Arizona. I'm in my Mesa office. Yo, I will give you 10. I will give away houses the first 10 people. Guys, you know what's really cool is I just raised $5 million. I have a lender that is willing to give me 8% interest, $5 million. He told me that, yo, guys, it's going really, really well. I just got off that call like literally 20 minutes ago. Really, really cool thing. I have an attorney that is looking to invest more money. He doesn't want to manage the money. He just simply wants to continue to run his practice. And he called me up and I said, you know what? I'm probably not a good fit for you. And he's like, why would you say you're not a good fit? I'm not a good fit for you. And I said, well, because you probably want to be handheld. You probably want somebody calling you and updating you all the time. And that's not me. Basically, all I'm going to do is give you a check every single month. And if that's what you're looking for, great. But I highly doubt that's what you're looking for. And he was like, no, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And I was able to get him to send me an email right after the call. This is a guy that after he said he'll deploy $500,000 with me this week, he then says, well, I have no limit to my money. So if we like working together, I'll give you another $5 million this year right away. So being able to tell him right out of the gate, like, hey, you're probably not a good fit for me, or vice versa, only made him want to give us money faster. Ooh, this is a great question, by the way. Manuel Serrano. I'm going to give you the most important thing I could teach you all day long. And it is, I learn more by teaching you guys than you guys learn from me, believe it or not. Because I'm giving you guys experience that I've already gone through, which is amazing. But when you guys ask me questions, it puts me on point and I have to rehearse it. And then I learn how to articulate it at a more condensed, easier to understand format. I actually learn more about creative financing by teaching you guys what I'm already doing than I do by actually doing it, which is so crazy. So if you look at the learning pyramid, actually, let's pull this up real quick. I'll even share my screen with you guys. Let's check this out. So if you guys go to, come on, baby. Hold on just a second. This is being so stupid. All right, so check this out. Boom. You guys can actually see what I'm seeing, which is awesome. So Manuel Serrano, let's take a look at this real quick. If I look up learning pyramid, look up the learning pyramid, and you're going to see something that is absolutely life-changing. If you can actually understand this, check this out. Boom. Why the learning pyramid? Oh, well, this guy says it's wrong, but I can tell you right now it is not wrong because I live it. It's amazing. So essentially, look here. Stupid. Boom. So 90% of what we retain as human beings, right here, 90% of what we retain as human beings comes from teaching others. So I'm very lucky, believe it or not, I'm very lucky to be in a position that I can articulate. I have an audience. People care about what I have to talk about because I actually retain way more information by teaching you guys than I do by actually practicing it. So very, very cool. I'm glad that I get to practice it as well. But overall, I learned very, very quickly because I get to teach you guys all day long, and I get to give you guys the content that we're going through. So What's the timeline in order of events in disposing creative deals? It's not that different, honestly, than a subject to. A subject to, seller finance. Let's get into that. That's a damn good question. Sorry, guys, I wasn't ultra prepared. Usually I'm way more prepared, but let's go through a timeline real quick, okay? So CPG. What type of creative deal? What am I buying? Tell me what I'm buying, and then I'll answer that question. Tell me what I'm buying, and I'll answer that question. Am I buying a subject to? And am I buying a seller finance? Am I buying a lease option? Am I buying a contract for deed? What am I buying? And I will tell you the timeline. And I know you're kind of newer, CPG, so maybe you don't know the answer to that question, but I'm happy to give you the answer. We can start with subject to real quick. Here's what's very different about subject to, creative finance, and wholesale. Biggest difference is the timeline. And it's mostly the timeline, not with the deal specifically and the paperwork that goes into it. That's relatively the same in terms of timeline. But the biggest difference is the conversion with the seller, the conversation with the seller, the exploration with the seller, the questions you ask the seller, and how you give the seller an offer. That is the biggest time frame difference. So like on a wholesale, I'll get a lead. So we got a lead on Monday. Anna set the call for me at 4 o'clock that day. We converted them today at 3 o'clock. So it was less than 12 hours or less than 24 hours. You're typically getting a hold of a seller on wholesale and you're converting them. Subject to doesn't really happen as fast as often. Okay. So if I buy a house subject to, typically my conversation with the seller, I can push back on the seller and I can force them to feel like I don't need the deal because there's not a lot of competition on subject to seller finance. So I can take my time. And the benefit of taking my time on a deal is because now I can negotiate and say, I don't really want the deal, or I don't like your terms, or I have better offers or whatever. And you can turn the tables on a seller with creative financing, whereas you can't do that with wholesale. So the exploration and the deal structuring typically is another day or two longer than when yo, Annie, hi. You're the best. Thank you, Annie. Appreciate you. How would I structure owner finance? Well, let me answer CPG's question real quick. So basically, let me just make sure you guys can see me. So today is the day I talk to the seller. So contact. Right? Now I ask questions. Okay, so I had a conversation with a seller today. I told the seller flat out he didn't have a lot of motivation. Do you guys want to see what my calendar looked like today? I'll share my screen with you guys. You can see my calendar, what it looks like. And you can see what my team actually puts in my calendar on my appointments. So you guys can see what you should be putting on your appointments. I have 10 items that I tell my team to make sure they put on an appointment. So let's go through that real quick. This is really good information, actually. As you can tell, this is highly not planned. I'm just throwing shit at you guys to see if this adds any value. Okay, so today's the 31st. My team took some stuff off my plate. Steven. There we go. So I don't care if you guys get this information, because I know how shitty some people are that follow me, is I have some of my competitors that love to follow me and they love to steal shit. So I'm going to give you something for free. So guys, check this out. This is what I require my team to give me. Okay, I require my team to give this to me. It's very, very important for me to see this information right here. And I tell my team, I go, I want the seller's name. This is all I do. I don't comp the properties anymore. My team comps the properties for me. They set everything up. Here's the contact information. If you guys want to call this seller, you can talk to him. I had a really great conversation with him. You're not going to screw the deal up for me, but go ahead and call him if you guys need a good lead. I'm probably going to contract him on Thursday. So anybody who wants to challenge me and get this contract over me, you're more than welcome to do so. He doesn't. So confirm means that I tell my team every time I'm going to get on a call, if you're going to set an appointment for me, it's going to be me in my calendar. make sure you confirm it. I'm really busy. I've got basically 12 businesses that I'm running. A lot of people are pulling me every which direction. So I have to know that if I have something on my calendar, it's confirmed. I have to know that. Now, I'm not a butthole and I don't get pissed off at people if something happens, but overall, I want 90% of the stuff that is on my calendar to actually go through, not fall through. Then I make sure my team puts the motivation in here. So look at this. My team actually writes motivation. Honestly, didn't get it. David got me on a 3. Okay, so David, one of our guys that cold calls for us, David got me on a 3-way with the guy. The seller wants $240,000 and he owes $177,000. He actually doesn't owe $177,000. He actually only owes $140,000, and he has, in his opinion, if he sold the property today with a real estate agent, he would get about $177,000 in his pocket after fees, commissions, and all that stuff. So my team, they asked good questions. They at least got down the right path. But I asked a couple extra questions to Steven today. And then here's the timeline. Okay, I make my team ask these questions before they put me on the phone with the seller. And then we always ask, are you speaking with other investors? And you can tell my team didn't do a really good job here. I'm calling my team out, but you can tell my team says, oh, I didn't get the motivation and I'm not sure if they've spoken to another investor. Guys, that's a pretty big no-no to put that on my calendar if you haven't asked the seller if they've spoken to other investors. And I'll kind of tell you how we bring that up. By the way, I can't see any comments you guys are making yet because you can see I'm sharing my screen with you, so I can't see anything. I'm looking at exactly what you guys are seeing right now. So I then ask for the condition of the property. And then I always ask my team to get the price. I don't care what the price is, ultimately. What I care is that my team actually asks them for the price. Okay, and that's something that happens a lot where people just simply are like, I'm afraid to ask the seller about questions. And I'm like, don't put on my calendar unless you've asked the question. I want my team to be so absolutely used to, let's see, you're pumping. Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. Appreciate you. So anyway, my team obviously set that appointment for me on the call. I had a good conversation with Steven. I flat out, the first thing I say to a seller is I almost challenge myself to say one very, very really perfect line. If you guys are going to learn anything on this call today, you should learn one thing. You should learn how to say, I'm probably not a good buyer for you. I say that more times a day than I say, hi, my name is Pace. Like I say that probably 10 to 15 times in a call with a seller. I say it multiple times if I'm in an appointment with the seller. I'm probably not a good fit for you. I'm probably not a good buyer for you. I got a contract today that we'll probably make $20,000 on in Gilbert. Really great deal, super clean. I got that deal because I told the seller, like, I'm not a good buyer for you, and I can already tell why. And the seller then says, why would you be on the phone with me? I go, well, we had a scheduled appointment. I've got the extra 30 minutes. Why don't we just stay on the phone? I can probably give you some good advice. Who else are you talking to? Why haven't you signed with somebody else? What's going on? And now they're talking to me as I'm their friend, right? I convert so much more, way more. Alex, thank you so much. Alex Salazar points something out really, really good here. He gets this from my seller appointment. So I put a lot of seller appointments that I've personally recorded into this Facebook group. You guys have probably heard a lot of them. And I make sure that I take my buyer's hat off. So I tell the seller, I go, I'm not a buyer for you. I'm not a good fit. But while we're on the phone, why don't you let me help you understand what other options you have and see if I can help you go find another buyer. But I always say I'm not a good buyer for you. In fact, it's like my first thing that I say to sellers before I even say my name. Okay, so CPG. How does handoff go from your calendar to you picking up the phone? What is the transition from picking up where your cold caller left off? That's the transition. They literally put those 10 pieces, those 10 pieces of information are my request. I make sure that my cold caller fills those out. They don't do anything else. They don't call the seller for me. They just put it in my calendar and I will then make the call. So guys, I'm a scaled operation. I've got people working for me. I've got partners. I've got a team. So I'm not really doing any of that lead generation anymore. I'm doing a lot more of the conversion. So I'm telling you, when I see a call on my calendar, it's typically because somebody else couldn't convert them. And that's the only reason that I'm jumping on that call. So I have trained people, I have amazing people on my team, but I reserve the hardest converting sellers specifically for only me to make those calls for a couple of reasons. Number one, yo, Matt, nice to see you tune in. So I want to take the hardest ones because number one, I keep my axe really sharp, right? I keep my brain sharp. I stay on top of the deals. And then number two, it gives really good training opportunities for me and my team if I can record those calls. In fact, I just started a pretty amazing app. It's called Tape a Call. It's right here. I just started I downloaded that, and now I'm recording every call I have with a seller so I can share it to the Facebook group. I got 2 deals yesterday, so both of those were recorded conversations. I'll take those from my phone. I'll throw it in the Facebook group. But that's the 2 reasons why I still am on leads. Number one, for really hard ones that my team can't push over the edge. Typically people that are talking to multiple other investors and my team can't seem to get them to convert. I will be the one that jumps on that call. So they set the appointment in the calendar. That way it kind of makes me a little bit more elevated phone call. So they tell the seller like, okay, well, the owner of the company would like to chat with you. When do you have time? Now they're like, oh shit, the owner of the company is calling, right? So you definitely want to elevate that. You can even do that with yourself. If it's just you or you and a partner, I did this when I first started out. I was like, hey, do you mind if I have my partner call? His name's John. And I literally just called myself and I said my name was John. So sometimes it's very, very helpful. Yes, Creative Finance Group with Pace Morby, the same Facebook group that we're going live in right now. Oh, actually, CPG, you're on YouTube right now, I can see. So let's go through these questions. You guys are asking really, really good questions. Yes, Claudio, always providing good feedback. Qualify yourself. I disqualify myself all the time, and that's how you qualify yourself. Carlos says he's using this tactic, and it works. Dude, it not only works, it's like, I was a home investor, so a lot of people don't know this about me, but I was a We Buy Ugly Houses guy for a couple of years. And I was like one of the top, out of 1,100 people nationwide, I was one of the top converters. And that's one of 50 things that I could tell you that absolutely help you convert. So Matt Reed, on the phone with a seller not 15 minutes ago, I told him we're not a good fit and immediately changed his thought. 100%. Immediately, they're like, oh, wait, why do you say that? Again, for a lot of people that didn't tune in, I just raised $500,000 at 8% from a private lender this morning, or not even this morning, 20 minutes before this live, by specifically telling him this is exactly how the conversation went. I said, honestly, I don't think that we're a good fit for each other, but I probably can help you find some other people that would deploy your money for you. I just know that you're probably not the right category for me. He's like, why would you say that? We haven't even talked. I go, well, because most private lenders are in one of 5 different categories. And in your introduction, you said you're in this category. So I doubt that you'd be willing to bleed over to my category, which is lending in second position at a lower rate. He's like, no, I would do that. You know, it kind of depends on the situation. And if I don't have, all of a sudden now he's fighting me to give me private money rather than most people think you got to beg and grovel somebody for private money. That's just never how it is for us. Can you share those 10 things? Yogi, I don't know what that means. Tell me, remind me of that. What are your main marketing sources right now? We use SMS and cold call, and we were using door knocking really, really heavy. I can tell you guys door knocking, heavily slept on. We were getting probably 8 contracts a month just from door knocking, 4 or 5 of those being subject to. But door knocking is now turned off, obviously, because of social distancing. We'll turn that back on. Door knocking has always been a heavy converter for us. It's amazing. Where we get our data is we utilize PropStream for a lot of our lists. We use batch skip tracing for our skip tracing, and we use batchleads.io for our text message machine. So you guys will see me talking about and giving you guys discount codes all the time for, in fact, I'll copy and paste that into the thing right here, but I can give you guys discount codes on most of this stuff because we've been using these for such a long time. Let's see here, batch leads. So if you guys want 500 free texts, use this, but this is the system we use for text messaging. So if you guys aren't text messaging yet, I would absolutely tell you text messaging is one of the best, especially right now, cold calling second. And then when social distancing is not an issue, door knocking is absolutely the best way to convert deals and get deals. Let's see. He's talking about 10 things you require before. Guys, we already went over this. You're killing me. Hold on a second. Let me share my screen with you. You guys got to jump in on time or else you're going to get me. I'm going to karate chop you. You're asking questions we've already answered. But here you go. Here's the 10 things. This is actual appointment from March 30th. So this is from yesterday. You guys, if you want to talk to the seller, go for it. This is an actual lead that got put in my calendar. These are the 10 things that I asked for. Okay. Stephen Franklin, seller's name. Guys, I think it's so funny that I even have to point this out, but I've had sellers or I've had appointments on my calendar that my team will literally just give me the phone number and the address. And I'm like, what in the F am I going to do with that? I need to know the guy's, at least his nickname, at least what his best friend called him in college, like Skippy or something. Like, give me something to go off of. I want to know that the phone call has been confirmed. I want to know what the motivation is. And if they didn't get the motivation, I want them to type out that they didn't get the motivation and that they didn't do their job properly. I'm not trying to socially shame them, but that's essentially exactly what I'm doing. I want to know what price he's looking for. And then I go to what's his timeline. And then also I want my team to ask them, okay, great. If you're interested in selling your house, I imagine you're getting hit up by a lot of other investors. What's kept you from selling your house so far? That's one of the top questions I make my team ask. So that's number 8. I want to know the condition of the property. I really don't care about the condition of the property, but just kind of a gut check. And then I want to know what price I'm supposed to pay for it. I ask my team to actually comp that property. So my team will comp the property before I get on the phone. Guys, I don't spend any more time comping properties. My team does that for me. I spend all my time converting deals that are like nearly impossible for my team to convert. So if something gets on my calendar, that means that my team couldn't convert it, or it's a really tough structure that nobody else can think of. And that's when my team will put it on my calendar. I'm not just randomly making calls to sellers anymore. I've scaled past that. My team does a lot of that. And I just, you can't see the bottom ones. Well, I don't know what to tell you guys. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Boom. Can you see all of them now? That's all 10, guys. Take a screenshot. Hot damn. You're killing me. Slowing me down. Guys, let's go. Come on. The ARV on that deal, Carlos, that's a great question. I'll put that up here for just a second, and I'll put this back here so you nudniks can screenshot this, because oh my gosh, it's amazing how many times you guys will ask the same question. This is it, guys. These are the 10 things I make sure that people put in my calendar before I make a call to a seller. And if you haven't gotten these things, then you need to be karate chopped if you're on my team. So hopefully that helps. So I'm going to go through it one last time. And if somebody asks me a question, what are my top 10 things again? You're going to get a big karate chop directly through Facebook Live. Seller's name, address. This is real information. So if you guys are lacking leads, go ahead and call my leads. But yeah, this is the lead I talked to yesterday. To answer Carlos's question, the seller wants 240. What do you think? What do you think that the seller wants for that house? Why do you think they put me on the phone, Carlos? If it was 240, if the seller wants 240, what do you think the house is worth? I'm going to let you answer that question. I want to see how close you get. My team is only putting things on my calendar for me to call because they're nearly impossible to close. And I'm the only one that will jump on these types of calls. So Carlos, since you're paying attention, please put on the screen how much you think it is. Yep, there you go, 240. It's exactly what it is. 100%. The seller wants $240,000. So no, come on, bro. This is Creative Finance Group. This isn't my wholesale page. My wholesale page is Wholesale Hotline. If you want to talk wholesale, let's go over to Wholesale Hotline. This is Creative Finance. Most of the time when my team thinks it's a deal or my team puts it on my calendar is because the seller wants retail or it's an impossible deal for us to close, okay? So does everybody have this? Everybody have this on the screen? Please tell me the answer is yes. Do you guys have this? Carlos, don't be sorry. I'm playing around. Every time I sound angry, I'm always like playing around. I'm just very, I'm joking around a lot. So yeah, the seller wants 240. Guys, did you get that? Did everybody get this? Great. I'm taking it off. So if somebody asks me to what are my top 10 things again, you're getting one of these, okay? So the reason why those are on my calendar, so a lot of people say, man, you're crazy. You guys do a lot of deals. Why are you still in the acquisition department? Number one, to set the tone for my team. Number two, to train my team. And number three, to create content for you guys. I actually, guys, sorry, we have like 150 people on the call, so there's some people that didn't know that. But I just downloaded this pretty cool app called Tape a Call, and I've been recording all of these calls that I make on that my team puts on my Google Calendar. I record every single call on my phone, and then I'm going to start putting it into the Facebook group. Every time I welcome a new group of people, I'm going to put one of these taped calls into the Facebook group so you guys can hear how I talk to sellers. The seller wanted, let's see, how do you run numbers for a seller finance? Hey, Mike, this is a great question. I gave a 2-hour live about this last week, so I'm not going to get super deep into this. This is more of a conversation about converting. And I have some other questions right now. Yeah, no, James, I'm dead serious. You guys should call that seller. That's a true lead. If you guys want to practice, I'll close it. I'll bet you $100 I'll close that deal before anybody else does. But you guys should all call that seller and say, I got your number from Pace. Call him up. Let's see how well you guys do. A lot of you guys are asking, where do I get more leads? I just gave you a really bona fide lead. So how do you run numbers for a seller finance? Guys, the way we buy deals for seller finance, I can buy a deal at basically any price I want. Okay, so I asked this question to a lot of people. Mike Balit, would you ever pay $1 million for $100,000 today? Would you ever pay $1 million for $100,000 today? The house is worth 100. Would you pay $1 million for that today? The answer should be hell no, right? Another question is, would you jump out of an airplane with no parachute for $100,000? The answer should be hell no. But if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find out that the airplane is actually grounded. It's on the tarmac, and you can jump out 10 feet and get $100,000. Would you then do it? The answer is yes. If you have a little bit more information, you can take a deal that's not a deal and turn it into a deal. Same thing with the $1 million home. Would you buy a $100,000 house for $1 million? The answer is yes, I would, as long as my payment's low enough that I can go cash flow. Okay? So that's basically how you underwrite it. You look at, what is my payment versus what is my rent? Now, there's another video in here in our Facebook group. If you scroll down in the 2-hour live, I went through every possible exit strategy. In fact, this is a remnant of that video right here. That was a 2-hour video. I broke down a deal. This is only like a part of me breaking down the deal, guys. I like broke down that thing for 2 straight hours. So anyway, as long as you can cash flow on a rental, Mike, if I can cash flow on a rental, then and the payment makes sense. So for example, the subject to that we're closing on this week, my payment with the seller is $400 and I can rent it out for $1,200. So you answered that question for me. Is that a deal for us? If I can cash flow gross $800, is that a deal for us? The answer is yes, that's a great deal. I really don't care what the price of the house is. Is it important? Yes, but at the end of the day, all I care about is cash flow. That's the first and foremost thing that I care about. Okay, Justice Soto. I've heard you mention this before. I have a friend who has a Subto deal that he thought was dead. He thought the deal was dead because the seller needed to get another loan. Oh my gosh, this is so easy. This isn't dead deal, right? No, no, this is not a dead deal. In fact, the way I bought my personal house is this exact situation. You guys want to see another dope screen share? Let's do another dope ass screen share real quick. Let's see. Boom, testimonial. Gotta love these testimonials, guys. All right, so guys, branded bills, you guys don't care about any of that shit. Check this out. We are going to go full screen on this bad boy. Check this out. So here's a testimonial. I want you guys to take a screenshot of this, whatever you want to do. This is a seller that gave me like such an amazing testimonial. Number one, as you can tell, he hates real estate agents. But this seller, Hayel, works for me. This is a testimonial we just got on the 13th. Seller's name is Dave Byarski. We bought this house subject to. It has 0 equity. And this is what the seller says. He says, for those of you who are having a very hard time selling your house with a real estate agent, stop. My wife and I had a beautiful home in Las Sendas. It's a really nice part of Arizona. We built the house in 2002. And after 17 years, it needs some work. Not going to lie. Let's freaking make this bigger. What do you guys say? After 17 years, blah, 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 blah. We wanted to sell it. The realtor said it would sell in 1 week in our neighborhood. How many times have you guys dealt with real estate agents that have said that to a seller or even to yourself? That they're like, oh, it'll sell right away and don't worry, we can always lower the price. Well, let me go away from that for just a second. So real quick, justice. So that seller, the reason he was selling the property, his pain, right? So we always want to care about pain. Why? Well, where was the seller's pain before we get into that testimonial? The seller's pain, and this is going to answer your question about getting another loan, qualifying for another house, buying their house subject to. The pain was he's been in that house for 17 years and it was time for an upgrade in his mind, right? They had worked their guts out. They were ready for a newer home. Dave driving home one day sees a brand new home community and says, oh my gosh, this house, this whole new community is being built like 2 streets away. And he goes into the open house. Next thing you know, the salesperson convinces him to put $20,000 non-refundable down on a lot and a brand new build. He hasn't qualified for a loan yet, but they said you can qualify for a loan as long as you go sell your other house and get the mortgage out of your name. So what does Dave do? Dave goes home. He tells his wife, this is back in like, I'd say June of last year, right? So super hot part of the market. Dave goes to his wife, says, we're buying a brand new house. We're going to put this house up for on the market. And this testimonial is essentially what happened, okay? This testimonial is where he basically just got sick of it. So he says, I kid you not, 44 walkthroughs over a month period. One of our major questions, the realtor, was, I work from home. We have a dog. Basically, he goes through and just talks shit on real estate agents for a good several things. Like, other realtors couldn't even follow simple directions. And any of you that are realtors, you'll also feel this pain. My wife's a real estate agent, so I get to hear all her stories. My business partner, Cody's a real estate agent, so I get to hear all his stories. Most of the time, the people who hate real estate agents more than anybody is other real estate agents. But he just goes on and bashes this person, bashes them. Basically, it's a effing nightmare, blah, 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 blah. After 44 showings, this is the important part, guys. This is the part I want you to pay attention to. After 44 showings, I said to my wife, it's time to call an investor. This is when I met Pace and his beautiful wife, Laura, and the kiddos. Pace came over the following day. Pace showed up on time when he said he would. Pace sat down with my wife and I explained every detail. He asked if we had further questions, and we did. Even questions we didn't ask, Pace informed us about. This is where bond, trust, and honesty shine through Pace's soul. Pace is not only, that's funny, we became friends, but he's without a doubt honest, no bullshit. Pace tells it like it is, depending on what situation you're in with your home. Pace will talk to you, explain to you his background, and look for your current situation. Evaluate what would be the best fit for you and your family and take over your property. That's what Pace does. All confidential. He's professional. He gives back to the community. Guys, this is a seller that let me have his house subject to, okay? So many people are spending so much time fearful of talking to sellers, thinking that sellers are going to have a hard time giving you their mortgage. Guys, most of the sellers we buy subject to are like throwing their mortgage at us because they have pain. Jonathan Castano, that's a great question. How many doors do you currently own and how much are you cash flowing from them? Just some inspiration for us. So you guys go back to Steve Trang's show. In January, I was on Steve Trang's show. I talked all about this. I'm not going to do that here. I talk about it and I'm very transparent, as most people will talk about. I probably overindulge. but I'm kind of learning not to. Last week, I had somebody send me a message and they were like, F you, you cocky mother effer, blah, 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 blah. While all of us are out here struggling, you're out here bragging about blah, 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 blah. So I'm learning to be more protective of my information. But if you want to know the answer to that question, I would go back to Steve Trang's show and know that since then we've doubled that. We're buying a lot. We cash flow a really good amount, and we're in a pretty decent situation. So hopefully that's helpful. But going back to that testimonial, this is the answer to that question. So what did I say to Dave, by the way, to get him to take my appointment? This is what this live is all about. When I got on the phone with Dave, he says, hey, my name is Dave. I'm trying to sell my house. I'm having a hard time. Somebody gave me your phone number, said you are the creative guy in town. And I just kind of want to know what that means. Creative. What does being creative mean? I said, well, basically, Dave, what it means is you have a mortgage on your house, right? Like you pay a bank. He goes, yeah. I go, what's the name of the bank? He says, Wells Fargo. I go, great. So essentially, I would start making your payments to Wells Fargo, and you would no longer be the owner of the house, but you would still have a debt in your name. That's it. I'm very transparent. He says, wait, what? So let me get this straight. And I go, yeah, I'll tell you again. I'm going to buy your house. I'm going to become the legal lawful owner. You will deed the property to me through escrow, through a title company. That I will now be on the deed. I will be the owner of the property, but the mortgage with Wells Fargo stays in your name. And he says to me, I can't do that. I would do that, but I can't do that because the new home builder that I'm buying a house from says I can't qualify for the loan unless I sell my property. And I said, your lender is incorrect over there. I can educate your lender, and I can give them what is called a DTI declaration. So debt to income declaration. And what a DTI declaration does, and we have one in the Facebook group somewhere, maybe I'll post it again. A debt to income declaration shows the new lender, hey, while I do have a debt in my name on that other property, I'm not the one responsible for paying for it. So federal law states that if you are not responsible for that payment and you can prove it with 2 payments, and so that's what I did. I preloaded 2 payments on his Wells Fargo loan, showing that I was the new payee. I was the person now paying that loan, and that lender for his new house took 75%. This is a federal law, guys. 75% of that debt came off of his credit. So it's a $1,950 payment. So basically $1,500 of it came off his debt to income, his DTI. And I was able to talk to his new lender and get him qualified for 3.5% interest rate on his new property, even though he was told he had to sell the property in order to qualify for that new house. So yes, it is not a dead deal. You just need to be educated. And that's why you're in this Facebook group, is to learn these kind of things. Crazy how this all works. Kind of. It is kind of crazy how this works, but once you start doing deals, you start realizing that, no offense to anybody that's just wholesaling. Wholesaling is pretty amazing, but it's just a gateway drug to like the real heavy stuff, right? It's all about getting into actually being a real estate investor. Being a real estate investor is acquiring properties and owning those properties and leveraging those properties. Wholesaling is just like no offense, but it's like a child's game. Once you understand wholesaling at a high level, you start realizing like, wow, this is like this. I'm not saying it's for children and you got to be stupid to play in wholesale. We love wholesale. It's amazing. I'm just saying, compared to the benefits of being in creative financing, wholesale is really not that great of a business model. Yes, you make money, but guess what happens when the market changes and shifts? People have a hard time making money in wholesale. When the market changes and shifts in creative financing, it creates uncertainty, and uncertainty only amplifies the ability to make more money in creative financing. So it's a somewhat recession-proof niche. It's not even a niche. It's like the people who are making hundreds of millions of dollars and like have a lot of money all own real estate. And the way they've owned real estate is leveraging debt. Okay, that's all we're doing with creative financing, is leveraging debt, using other people's money. There's nothing crazy about it. It's new to you guys, right? Jonathan Castano, yes, the more honest you work, the more honest you are with somebody, the easier it is to pitch them anything. I worked with 7 cars. I sold a lot of, yes, absolutely. Being honest is absolutely crucial. Gino, how much does your cold caller qualify leads? Do they push anyone who says yes, or do they do some sort of qualification? No, it's not a Cody question. This is a sales question. Cody does manage it, but that Gino, miss you, appreciate you, bro. Great question. I ask our cold callers to fill out the 4 pillars of motivation. And as long as they've asked the seller the 4 pillars of motivation, I don't need an answer to them. I just need to make sure that those questions have been asked. Number 1 is motivation. Would you be interested in selling your property to a cash investor? Yeah, I'd be interested in a cash offer. Great. Would you be interested in selling in the next 60 to 90 days? Because that's when we're looking to buy a property. Yeah, no, not really. Like maybe in the next year. I will still consider that a good answer. As long as they answered the question, I'll still consider that an answer. Then it's okay, well, if you were to sell your property today, whether it's to us or anybody else, is there a price that you have in mind, right? So anyway, sorry, Jonathan Mark always asking these good questions. Jonathan, I'll jump on that question in a second. And then the 4th one is condition of the property. As long as they ask those questions, I consider it a lead. It's my job as a salesperson to take a lead and convert it, right? It's their job to at least make sure they get the 4 questions asked. That's how we do it. I'm going to ask Jonathan Mark. I'm going to answer Jonathan Marks real quick. For the DTI declaration, can I file that myself to remove the debt for wraps that I've sold? No. The DTI declaration is utilized for the underwriter on a new loan, Jonathan. It's to show the underwriter on a new loan. You can't file that and actually have your DTI change. Your DTI is changed based on every single lender you go to. So let's say that I go to a lender today and I buy a car and they go, oh man, your DTI is really high. I have to show them the DTI declaration and say, here's what I actually have to pay for. And these debts right here are paid for by somebody else. And here's proof. That's a DTI declaration. Then the next day I go and I want to get another car at a different car dealership. I'm going to have to show that DTI declaration again. There's nowhere to file that. There's no magical place to file that. It's not public record or anything like that. It doesn't go on your credit. It's just something that you show somebody that you're getting a loan from. Okay. Pace, what are your, wow, Jonathan Castano, bro. I almost feel like I should be charging you. You're asking all these good questions and I feel like we're giving you good answers. Pace, what are your metrics per cold caller? How many calls should they be dialing and how many leads at minimum should they be getting an hour per shift? I look at it, every cold caller should generate 2 leads a day. I don't care how many hours you call. I don't care how many phone calls you make. In fact, if you make 2 phone calls and you get 2 good leads, take the rest of the day off. That's how I look at work. Now, our cold calling company, vahubonline.com, vahubonline.com, they're amazing. They actually set appointments for us. They also will manage our texters. So like they have people will cold call for us. They have people that will manage our text messaging. And now one of them even actually helps me with some clerical stuff in my personal life. So the cold caller will generate 2 good leads a day, and I don't care about anything else. And then our conversion rate, a good conversion rate is 1 in 30 texts and 1 in 31 cold call. So, and then door knocking is 1 in 100 doors. Okay, I've done direct mail, I've done billboards, I've done TV, I've done radio. I used to spend $20,000 a month in direct mail. There's not many people that know more about direct mail than I do and the metrics that have to do with that. However, I stopped doing that because the number 1 KPI I look at in my business is my cost per contract, right? So your lowest cost per contract in terms of marketing is going to be these 3. Your texting, your cold calls, and your door. So if I get 30 leads into my Podio or in my CRM, my customer relationship manager, if I get 30 leads, I'm getting a deal. If I get 31 leads from cold callers, I'm getting a deal. So for me, 1 cold caller should be able to get me 2 contracts a month when I'm converting well and I'm doing a good job. No, Jonathan, I'm joking, bro. If you understand my personality, I'm just joking. I have very, very dry humor. I'm never really truly getting on anybody. I'm just always joking. Okay, so do they ask for rental agreement, lease agreement to justify the DTI? Yes. They do. They want proof that somebody else is making that. So you don't want to just declare that I don't make this payment. They want to show, for the one for Wells Fargo, the one we did with Dave, we actually showed 2 canceled checks for the payments, and that's what allowed them to take it off the DTI. Hopefully that makes sense. You probably don't mention the fact that you're purchasing the home to the bank, right? Hell no. Hell no. You just tell them you're making the payments to the seller for the seller so you don't trigger the, well, anybody that has a mortgage payment knows that you, number one, when I make my mortgage payment, I never talk to the bank, even when I make my own mortgage payment, let alone somebody else's mortgage payment. I don't talk to the bank when I make my own mortgage payment. So why would I start talking to the bank just because I'm paying somebody else's? There's nobody you talk to, like a teller, like the online, right? My mortgage payments just come through automatically. So there's nobody to talk to. There's no conversations to be had. So it's a good question for people that are new to the business, but I really want you to be like very clear that who are you going to talk to at what, in what situation, which encounter are you ever going to run into somebody that needs to know that you're making the payment on behalf of the seller? Like, who's that person? Where's their job? Where are they currently standing right now? I want to go talk to them. I don't even know who I would talk to. Matt Reed, never had Subto deal meeting called. Oh, mortgage called. Yeah. I have. We just had one called on Friday. We just had a due on sell clause call on Friday. We've had it. We just had it happen. It's a smaller local bank. We just had a simple conversation with the bank. Our attorney. This is what's great about equity assurance. I own another company, and it's due on sell assurance. So if the due on sell clause gets called, my attorneys will call and fight that due on sell clause. And then if it does get called, for some reason we lose it, we've never lost it, then we will utilize, we have $40 million at our disposal, and we'll go through and refinance that loan out. But we've had them called. It does happen. How did the bank figure that out? The bank figured it out because they're a small local bank. They actually look at their balance sheets. People like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, like 99% of banks that issue mortgages don't ever know. And then on top of it, they sell the mortgages off to servicing companies, and the servicing companies don't know their butt from a hole in the ground. They don't know anything. So the bank we took over, Lost Dutchman is the name of the house. Amazing, cute little house right up next to the Superstition Mountain. We cash flow like $500 a month on that deal. We have a good amount of equity. The Subto, the mortgage we took over is like 3.5%. It's a good rate. And the mortgage company didn't call us. The mortgage company called the seller and said, hey, we're foreclosing on the property because you transferred ownership. Seller calls us and says, oh my gosh, the world's falling apart. We go, oh no, don't worry about it. This has happened. We know what to do. So it's not a big deal. Due on sell clause does get called. It's due on sell clause or acceleration clause is what it's called. Yes. So Matt is right. Matt's very, very experienced investor. He knows that can happen. Silver Peak. What if the original seller expresses to a lender that he no longer is making payments on his loan? Silver Peak, let me ask you a question. Who would he talk to at the lender? Right? So anybody that has a mortgage is going to know where I'm getting. Who do you talk to at your mortgage company? Who is the person that you talk to? Is there a Jim or somebody that you talk to that you're like, hey Jim, I know, we've had this mortgage in our name for 10 years and we've been talking to you every time we make a payment. Dude, nobody knows anybody at their bank. There's nobody to talk to. There's no conversations happening right now at all. Danny, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Equity assurance, due on sell clause insurance. I would reach out to Cody or Rochelle on my team about that. They run that company for me. If lender calls because he's late on payment. So if he's late on payments, this is so interesting. These are really good questions. It's amazing to me. These questions are amazing. I forget about these questions, guys. Thank you so much. Silver Peak, I'm going to answer this first. If the lender calls because he's late on a payment, the lender doesn't call, bro. It's 2020. Lenders do not call anybody. They send a letter saying you owe us money. It's an automated response. There's no human interaction whatsoever in any of this any longer. It is all automated. You guys truly need to understand that. There is no person at the mortgage company looking for the due on sell clause or looking for transfer. There's no position in a company or there's nobody in the loan, or I'm sorry, the lender that ever even cares about this. So when you're saying, well, the seller's late on his payment, nobody calls him. They send him an automatic letter. So if anybody that's in the business, you know, when you go into a seller's house and you're talking to them and they're behind other payments, they have a letter. It's automated. You can tell it's automated, and it's the same, similar letter to every other letter you've ever seen. So no, the lender's not going to call. Very, very rarely will they call. So, and if they are behind on the payment, that means you haven't purchased the house yet, because when I buy the house from the seller and they're behind on the payment, I'm the one that catches up the payments before I close escrow. Danny, how do you actually make payments? Multiple different ways, depending on the lender. Most of them just come out of our bank account. We have an ACH set up every single month for every mortgage, comes out of our main account every single month, or, well, we have a couple different accounts, but it comes out of our account automatically, and then it sends us a notification saying it was paid. Very, very simple. Now, there are local banks that will physically go down and make those payments. Also, with seller finance homes, so seller finance means that the seller doesn't have a mortgage. We created a debt in their name because they had no debt in the first place, right? So that seller tells us where they want their money sent. Most of the time, it's just a direct deposit into their account, and we just set that up on an automatic payment every single month. Very, very simple. It's the same way that you pay just about anything. The way my tenants and my lease optionees and everybody pays me is that we have software called Propertyware, and they have an online portal, and they pay all their stuff automated as well. So everybody tries to remove all human element in all of this as much as possible. I was referring to when you were talking with the bank with the DTI to get the loan removed so the seller can get another loan for their new home. Yeah, I answered that like literally for like 20 minutes, Justice. You're karate chop, bro. What are you talking about? Be more specific. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm so sorry. I thought I answered that question. If I didn't, I would love to re-answer it for you. I want to make sure you get the answer you need. What other option would you offer that deal to avoid small banks? You can do a contract for deed. So this is something I never talk about because this is like so hard for people to understand. When I acquire a property, let's go through acquisition. Actually, you know what I'll try? Let's try this out. Let's do a new note. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to give you guys some value, and I'm trying to make sure that you get as much as you can out of this. That's not what I want. That's what I want. Here we go. So here we go, guys. Let's create a new note here so that you guys can kind of see me, but not entirely. Okay, so what are the purchasing strategies? So guys, when I'm buying a house subject to, holy crap, I'm sorry, this is on a, how do I buy a house? I can buy a house, number one, I can buy it subject to. What does that mean? That means take over mortgage, pay their mortgage, and keep in their name. Who owns title? That's us. We own the property. Now, number two, seller finance. So what's the difference between seller finance and subject to? The difference is that there is zero debt, means that the house is paid off. Typically, this is a seller that wants way too much money for their property, and they've owned it for a long time, or they inherited it or whatever, and they want full retail for it. That's typically a seller finance deal. Most of the seller finance deals I get are at 0%, and they are under $150,000 is the purchase price. That's really not important, but there is like when you get to ninja status and you're buying a lot of these, there's a reason for that. There's no reason to get into that today, except I know there's people that can't handle when I say something and I don't go into it, so I apologize for that. If you want more information on that, I'll answer it next time. So a lot of times you can get 0% interest to, I would never take anything over 3.5% interest from a seller. Why? Because I can get a lot of deals subject to at 3.5%. So why would I like there's no benefit to me buying that house at full retail when I could go get a subject to deal that has equity in it. So most of the time, a seller wants us to buy a house from them. We try and stay at 0 to 2.5% interest to them. Okay. Now, and I also don't do balloons. Not that anybody even cares about that, but let's leave that alone. What's another way I can buy that house? I can buy it on a lease option. A lease option means that I'm not technically the owner, right? I just have the right to become an owner, and I can then turn around and lease option that to somebody else. So we call that a sandwich deal. I'm sure Matt Reed's done a lot of those. I don't typically like acquiring on lease options personally. And the reason I don't like buying on lease option, I like selling on lease option, we'll get into that in a little bit, is because you're not really the owner. You have no control. Another one would be like a land contract or contract for deed. What is that? A contract for deed or a land contract, the benefit of doing that is that's the same as a subject to, okay? The difference is there's no title change. Deed stays with the seller. Why do I not like this method, and why do I like the method? I don't like the method because as a subject to, I actually own the property. I close escrow, I go through a title company, I pay the money, and now I get full control of that property, and I take full control of that debt. I can do so many things with that. With a contract for deed, I'm not the real owner. And let's say that the owner of the property, I'm going to go sell it, or I'm going to exit the deal, and I'll get into exit strategies in a second. So you guys, we went through purchasing strategies. I'm going to go through exit strategies in just a second. So when I go to exit that deal and I don't technically own the property, what happens if the seller decides, nah, I'm good, I'm going to fight with you, and I have to then go litigate them for my ownership? Because technically I send a contract that when I buy or I exit that deal, I get the deed and I can transfer that deed. I don't want to worry about going back to that seller ever again once I close escrow. Also, depreciation, which is something we can go into. Depreciation is a tax loophole that allows you to lower your tax bill. You don't get depreciation when you have a land contract, okay? But what's the number one benefit to a contract for deed or a land contract is that the bank doesn't know that the seller sold you the property because there is no actual title change, okay? So you can do a contract for deed really easy, avoid the due on sale clause, but again, you don't get any of the tax benefits. You have to fight the seller at some point, possibly. Very small outside possibility, but it is a possibility. Let me see if you guys have any questions real quick. If the seller is concerned, yes, you can do a lease option. I don't like them for the reason I don't like acquiring on lease options because, again, with a lease option, a lot of times the seller would come to me. If they're educated, they'll want to sell it to me at, let's say they give me a 2-year or 3-year lease option. If I'm in Texas, so the maximum is a 3-year. Give me a 3-year lease option. They're typically selling it to me at a 3-year in the future price. On a land contract, I can typically say, I'm buying the house right now. This is our price as of today. So lease options are very interesting in their difference between those two, at least in my experience. What are the docs you need to sign? You need right away to get a seller to agree on the subject to offer. You need a purchase contract and you need a subject to addendum, which I have. Let me see what we got here. Let's see here. You guys want to see all my documents? Let's take a look real quick. So here's all my creative finance documents. We are pretty organized over here. So I've got all my deeds, my land contracts, lease options, memorandums, all my miscellaneous stuff, my tax forms, Subto files, my wrap information. Let's see if I can make this a little bit larger. Guys, I've got files on files on files on files. We have everything that we use for purchasing houses. But here's the thing with you guys, which is really interesting, is that when I got into this business, I never worried about the type of contract I had. I never jumped into that. I was never worried about What does my contract look like? I just took action. And so many other people, I'm not saying the person that asked that question is that person, but a lot of times people will, they will stop taking action based on the fact that they don't have the perfect contract. So be very careful of that. Don't let that trip you up. Don't let that stop you. Guys, Carlos, I'm telling you, do you know how much I paid to learn what I'm teaching you guys in just an hour right now? A couple of years ago, I'm not joking you, I paid somebody $30,000 to teach me less than what I'm teaching you guys right now. I'm not shitting you. Horrible, horrible, horrible what's out there right now. When you take on these deals, are you keeping these deals for yourself? Or are you putting them in a land trust, LLC? No. Do you know why I don't put things in a land trust? So let's go through exit strategies first. This is not what I planned on doing, but I'm going to do it for you guys anyway. Wholesale. Did you guys know that I can wholesale a subject to? I can wholesale a seller finance deal. I can wholesale a lease option, and I can wholesale a land contract or a contract for deed. I can assign those and just make a fee. In fact, I assigned one today in Texas, and we made $5,777, and I'm out of the deal. Why would I wholesale a sub to? Why would I just get rid of that deal? Sometimes I don't want to be the owner. I don't want to manage it. I don't want to deal with it. I just will assign it to another buyer like me, and I'll make an assignment fee. That's like, if you're going to get in creative financing, couldn't you give the title held in escrow with a title company for a contract for deed to avoid the whole issue? Yes, but then you have to go through a whole thing of like, I never have to reach out to you again. You have to have them sign a whole bunch of stuff. When they do the final closing documents and they have a payout and all that stuff, they still need agreement to close that transaction. They have to have disbursements and all sorts of stuff. You still have to wrangle them in. You still have to bring them to the table. We've ran into that deal. You said you don't structure sub to where seller cash flows since that reminds them of the house. If you pay their price, naturally they're getting some profit, which takes precedence. Always giving them a little bit of money in their pocket to be on their merry way. I have never done a deal where I pay a seller any cash flow of a subject to. So if I take it over subject to and there's very little equity, but I'm cash flowing, I don't care if I'm cash flowing $1,000, which we do. We have a couple houses that we cash flow like $900 to $1,100 net. I still won't pay the seller any of that. I don't want to remind them that house is still there. I want them to move on and forget about it. Okay. I have sellers from like 3-4 years ago that have forgot they sold a house to me. No joke. They forgot that their mortgage is even in their name. Okay. So how do I exit? Does anybody even care about the exit strategies? It seems like you guys have so many questions. I can't even get to them. How do you go about determining your assignment fee? Paul Cody, you're always asking great questions, bro. I appreciate you. Everybody's asking great questions, by the way. Thank you so much. How do I determine my assignment fee? I determine my assignment fee based on what value the cash flow is. So if the cash flow is like $50 a month, I don't think I'm going to make much of an assignment fee, maybe $2,500. But if the cash flow is $1,000 a month, I can demand probably $10,000, $15,000 and upwards of $20,000 on an assignment fee. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Matt. Yeah, this is for guys like Matt and I that are actively doing the business. Like for you guys, I had somebody call me today. This is so funny. I had a deal last week. I had a seller that I convinced to sell to me subject to. She calls me up today and she's like, hey, we changed our mind. We no longer want to sell to you subject to, but we want to buy the house from ourselves subject to. Does anybody understand that at all? It's really interesting. They're inheriting the property from their father's estate. He's dead. I told them I can buy the house even though he's dead. I can buy it subject to. I explained the whole thing to them. They're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. We want to learn how to do this. I go, yeah, I'd be happy to help you. I've helped a lot of our sellers sell a house to us subject to or seller finance, then teach them how to go do this as well. So I'm like, yeah, sure, come on to the office. They never came to the office. What they did is they went to my YouTube channel and they subscribed to the Facebook group. They went through a bunch of videos. They learned how to do it. And they called me up and said, hey, can you tell us the documents we need to buy the house from the estate subject to so we can get it out of our the deed out of the father's name. And I was like, sure, I'll help you out. I'm just telling you, it's really funny. People get excited about this stuff. So you guys do care about disposition? Do you guys care about how to exit these deals or no? Let's see. Pace has a 2-hour video on exit strategies. Yeah, the challenge is, it's so funny. Like No shit, guys. Listen to this. This is so funny. Like, if anything I can say today is funny is I'll do like a swipe up feature on my Instagram, and I'll be like, hey guys, we're going to do a such and such on Wholesale Hotline, swipe up. And I'll do that like 3 days in a row. And then like 2 days after Wholesale Hotline, and I've done the swipe up feature, and here's the link, and here's the this, and 5 p.m. this, and here's the phone number, and here's where it all is. And I'm giving the information. I get somebody that sends me a message like, how do I get to Wholesale Hotline? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is oh my gosh, how do you not have the information? So what I've learned is that I can't, when I send a message on Instagram, or I send even this live, we only have 130 people watching live. Usually on like a scheduled call, I'll get 400 to 500 people watching live. So we only have 125 people watching right now. So what's going to happen is I'm going to answer this question, and I'm going to have to answer it again tomorrow to somebody and act as if it's the first time I'm teaching them. So I'm happy to do it. Let's go through it real quick. Here's an exit strategy. Wholesale's number one. It's the easiest, costs you no money. You basically, there is a very specific assignment contract though, guys. I have an assignment contract that is specific to assigning a subject to and seller finance, because there's more disclosures and more information needed. It's not a traditional assignment contract. If you need one and you're actually in a contract to actually sell a subject to, then reach out to me, but don't ask me for a contract that you're not ready for. All it does is slow down your action taking. So number one is that. Number two is wrap. A wrap is where basically I buy a property subject to seller finance, lease option. Actually, I don't do this with lease options, but I'll do it with a subject to or seller finance, which if you have a question what subject to and seller finance is, rewind the video, guys. We just went through it. It's right here up on the screen. So I would take a subject to or seller finance, and I would sell those terms at a higher rate to another buyer. Okay, it's not a wholesale because I'm actually staying in the deal as the lender. So what would happen is, let's say the seller gives me a deal at, they sell me a car, let's say at $5,000 car, and I have to pay $500 down and $200 a month at 3% interest. I would then sell it to a buyer for $10,000 for the car, $1,000 down, and $300 a month at 6% interest. Guys, that's a wrap right there, okay? And who is in the middle? The person that's in the middle is me. I'm in the middle. So not only do I get the difference between the down payment, I get the difference between the asset price. I also get on a monthly basis $100 a month in cash flow, because I took somebody else's terms and I raised those terms to somebody else that needed me to finance them. That is a wrap. I'm not shitting you. It took me a month to have somebody articulate that to me properly. Oh my gosh. Alex, don't screenshot my shit until it's done, broski. I want you to screenshot it when it's all done. Then that way you have the whole thing. So hopefully you guys understand a wrap, or you can go back and rewatch that. Lease option is my preferred exit strategy. Why do I like lease options? Is because I then don't have renters. Matt Reed knows this very, very well. Oh crap, I'm so sorry, guys. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm so sorry. I just gave you like the most bomb example. So let me go through wrap one more time since you guys missed that. Here's what a wrap is. Okay, seller gives me a car. Can you guys see the screen now? Car for $5,000. I give them $500 down. I give them $200 monthly payments. Oops, sorry. Sorry, I'm trying to type this on the pedestal, guys. They charge me $200 a month until it's paid off, and they're charging me 0% interest on that deal, or let's say 3% interest to be realistic for most people. Okay, then I find a buyer who says, man, I wish I could get financing, but nobody likes my credit. So they say, I've got a budget of $10,000, but I don't care what I buy it for, but I do have $1,000 down, and I can afford monthly payments of $300 monthly payments at, they don't even care about the interest rate. All they care about is this. Most buyers only care about that, okay? So instead of me just assigning it, I stay in the middle. I'm the lender, I'm the guy. So I take somebody else's car for $5,000, sell it to somebody else for $10,000. Do I get that $5,000 today? No. What I get today is the difference between the down payment. Okay, so I'll collect $500 because that's the difference between my down and their down to me. Then I collect a $100 monthly payment, and I basically will make money off somebody else's asset by leveraging their terms to me. I will give somebody else a higher set of terms. That is considered a wrap. Okay, so I can do wraps without money out of my pocket. Love it. So no money out of pocket. Also, you can do, you get upfront money, which is awesome. It's kind of like a wholesale fee. And then also you get cash flow. What's the downside to this? The downside is I am not the owner anymore. I'm not the owner of the property. Okay. I don't get any of the ownership tax credits. I don't get the appreciation. I don't get the pay down. I don't get any of that stuff. Okay. Then I get lease option. This is, a lot of people know what lease options are. I'm not going to go into the great detail on not lease options. Then I have the SIR method. This is something I created, or at least I changed the name of it. The SIR method is, does anybody know what the BRRRR method is? Let's go through the BRRRR method real quick. So BRRRR method is you buy the property, usually with hard money. So you go buy the house. You put 80% is, oops, so annoying. 80% comes from a hard money lender, and then 20% comes in cash from you. But that's really hard for a lot of people to buy a house that way. Then what they do is they renovate. That takes cash, more cash. Then you rent it, which takes 6 months to season. What does that mean? That means it takes 6 months to have a renter in the property before you can go and get the hard money loan refinanced out. It takes a very long time. And then you, so then you refinance, and then you repeat. That's the BRRRR method. I don't like the BRRRR method. I think the BRRRR method is old school. Why would I go through all that when I could just buy a house subject to at, let's say, a 3.5% interest rate with zero down. Then I rehab the house and I rent it, and then I repeat. I don't have to refinance. I don't have to season it. I don't have to put a ton of cash into the deal, especially right here, right? So I call it the SIR method. Essentially, it's also known as just turning into a straight rental. Okay, another one would be called a subtail. What is subtail? That means I buy a property subject to, so I take over somebody's mortgage right here, or even seller finance. You can even do this with the lease option. You could basically do this with all four of these. I buy the property and then I renovate it and then immediately sell on the MLS on the open market. This is also known as fix and flips. Okay, so why I prefer this over a traditional fix and flip is that I don't have to go get hard money because I took over somebody else's mortgage. I don't even have to qualify for it. I don't have to put money down. I don't have to do anything. Right, so then you got the subtail. Then you've got Airbnb, which I'm not a big fan of, but you can do the whole Airbnb model. And then you've got group homes. Okay, and there's actually two other exit strategies, but I won't go into those. But you guys get the gist of this. Okay, so Daniel Mendez. No, the answer is no. That is not correct. So if you guys spend the time and learn about land contracts, or I'm sorry, land trust. What is a land trust meant for? It's meant for anonymity. It's meant to hide or shroud who the actual owner of that property is. Do I use land trusts? No, I don't. Why? Because Arizona requires you, when you close escrow, they require you to name the beneficiary. So the whole entire reason, the whole entire purpose of actually, Horacio, what are you saying next? I don't know what that means, bro. I'm sorry. You know what I like sometimes is I'm like, oh yeah, there's like two more things, but I'm not going to show you guys. It's amazing like how pissed off people get. I'm so sorry. I have fun teasing you guys a little bit. So Greg Olson, let's argue about the BRRRR method. The BRRRR method is for me that my construction company makes money while renovating it. And when I refinance, I get 100% of the money I put back in. Do you really get 100% of the money you put back in? Because the lender that refinances you, as far as I found, unless you found a lender, most lenders will only refinance you at 80% of LTV. So you're not going to get 100% loan on that. So let's say that I buy a house. Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, Horacio, I was giving you a hard time. So Greg, I would love to Greg, can you get on? I'm going to invite you. I wish I can send you a message directly. Greg, will you text me? I want to get you on live. I want to talk about this because this is my cell phone. Please, guys, don't blow me up. I get so many people blow me up. Please don't blow me up. Greg, send me a text. I'm going to send you a link to get on the live because I want to debate over BRRRR. I don't want to argue. I want to debate. I want to see how you're getting 100% of your money back. I've been doing this a long time. And if you have a lender that will give you 100% of your money back in terms of the purchase the down payment you put into the hard money lender, the payments you made along the way in terms of the hard money lender, the utilities, the expenses, and all that kind of stuff to keep up on it. And then on top of it, they give you 100% of your renovation money back at an inflated price that your construction company charged. That means they're giving you 100% financing on your home and they're pulling out you're getting all the equity out. Bro, that's crazy. I want to know who that lender is. I've never seen that. I've never, ever seen that. Every time we get a lender, the lender will give us 80% loan to value maximum on a refinance. And when they do a refinance, here's the other thing for people to understand on the BRRRR method is that when I do a refinance on my BRRRR method and I refinance at 80% LTV, the interest rate through a lender that will actually do that will typically be between 5.5% to 7% on a refinance. I've talked to national companies, like people that are doing BRRRR method refinances. If you found somebody lower interest rate and will give you 100% of the value of the home in a refinance, bro, share it with the group. That's worth $1 million. CPG, bro, this is my favorite. These are my favorite questions. So CPG, you're brand new to this game, at least from the type of questions you're asking. I love the fact that you're asking questions, but getting into group homes is a ninja move, bro. It's a ninja move. And if you're asking about how to get tenants into your group homes and you don't have capital, it's probably not the right exit strategy for you. But here's the answer to that question. I will share this with you because I'm all about giving you guys. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I own, here, let me put this on screen share. So there's a company. The name of the company is Community Bridges International. Okay, Community Bridges, here we go. This is the name of the company. If you guys want to go do group homes, go here. These people will teach you how to do group homes. I utilize them to fill my beds on my group homes. They have multiple locations nationwide, not just Arizona wide. Okay, so you can go there and find locations. There's there's like 5 different companies that do the same thing. So hopefully that answers your question, but I would not suggest getting into group homes. It took me 1.5 years to get into them. A lot of money, a lot of energy. They are worth it, but man, it is not something to do on your first subject to deal. Create a great relationship with your banker. Yes, done it with the last 2 deals. 0 out of pocket, private money rehab, finance immediately back out of the bank on a commercial note up to 85% retail value. So what Wade is talking about is a commercial note up to 85% retail value. So here's the thing you must be doing, Wade, which is amazing. And I applaud you for this. If you're buying at 50 cents on the dollar, which is nearly unheard of right now, then I would say that's amazing. That's absolutely dope. But if you're 0 out of pocket on a BRRRR method, that is like you're 1 in a million people I've ever talked to. Most people are sticking $10,000 to $30,000 in the BRRRR method long term, and they're not getting 100% of their money back. So you must be buying deals really, really deep, and I applaud you for that because that's the only way to do that, right? Same thing with us is like, if I do the burn method and I get a good deal, typically I'm all into renovations, my hard money costs, my closing costs, my utilities, my everything, every little expense. I'm usually at 85 or 90%. And then I have a lender that only goes up to 80%. So if you have a lender at 85%, please share it with the group. I would love to see that. How do you buy a property or control property with no money down? Please share on single family home and also mobile home park and multifamily apartments. Really appreciate it. Okay, no problem. Happy to do that. Let's take a look at it. So if I got to share the screen again. Oh, Anna, one of my acquisition managers on here. Hi, Anna, how you doing? Okay, so you want to know how to control the property with no money out of pocket? We've already done that. Subject to seller finance, lease option, land contract. You can do all 4 of these with no money out of your pocket. Okay, the way you do that is depends on the exit strategy. So if I take a subject to and my total, I got one right now. I have a house that we have under contract. It's actually, you're not going to buy it. Heather, I'm going to hate to burst your bubble, but you're not going to buy a mobile home park right now with zero money down. You could bring on partners into that deal and then buy a house zero money down. How many sellers have you paid to take over payments? Meaning, how many times do I give the seller cash is the question, or how many times I don't quite understand the question. I'm so sorry. Wow, guys, your questions are like all over the board. It's like there's very little consistency. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm jumping all over the board. And I probably should just avoid some of the questions. I apologize. Anna says we have a hot lead. Anna, should we just, should I call the seller like while we're on the live, or what do you want to do there? Let's see. Okay, so I have, if I buy a house subject to, and let's say that my total cost is $5K to the seller, $2,000 in closing costs, and $2,000 in renovation, and then $2,000 in like my first month payment, my utilities, and all that kind of stuff, miscellaneous. My total cost to get into that deal is $11,000, right? Total $11,000. However, I can go do a wrap, or I can do a lease option. I've had lease optionees bring me $15,000 as a, not a down, but as a lease option fee. And they bring all money to the table before I close. So if they bring $15,000 to the table on a subject to house that I have under contract, I can essentially take a $4,000 fee up front, control the property. Their money is what helps me close escrow and all that stuff, as long as I time it properly. Really, really simple. We have one that we're doing a wrap on right now where we're buying the house subject to, and we're buying the house subject to, and then we're turning around and wrapping it. We'll take $13,000 up front without having any money in the pocket, out of pocket. And then Paul Cody, you're funny. How do we talk common seller can we talk common seller objections to subject to? How about you guys throw out some common seller objections that you think subject to has, and I'll overcome them. Guys, a lot of the challenge I have is that I've given a lot of these answers. Sure, Horacio. I've given a lot of these answers, and I've also recorded calls and put them in the Facebook group, hours and hours and hours. In fact, people have reposted those multiple times. And people still ask me questions like, hey, will you overcome those objections? I'm happy to do it. But like in my mind, I'm like, what have I not told them? I feel like I'm a stand-up comedian, like telling the same jokes over and over and over. And I feel bad for the people who've already heard these answers. So maybe I just need to get over that. Between acquisition, contract, and disposition, do you pay holding costs until they move in? No. If you time it properly, CPG, you don't have to have any holding costs on that deal that I talked about. Yeah, let me call Anna. Let me see if Anna has it.
Hello?
Hey, Sonia, we have like 130 people that you're just on Facebook. You're on YouTube. But everybody else is inside the Facebook group. Hey, Anna, do we have what? Tell us about the lead.
Okay. So the seller is a 52-year-old man who just became a dad for the first time and had a baby, and with his wife, divorced. It's a funny story. He's actually moving in with her and wants to be a full-time dad. So this house, which he owns free and clear, he's like, it's a burden for me. I want to get rid of it. I'd like to be out of there before the end of the month of April. And I know it needs work. If an investor, I want an investor to pick it up because I don't want to do any work to it. I understand that it needs work. I'm realistic. If you can just work with my timeline, I just want to be done with it because his biggest motivation is he wants to focus, and he's ecstatic about being a dad and just wants to get rid of this house.
Okay, text me his name and number. Do you have like a follow-up call or something with him, or what's the next step?
I do. So the follow-up call, I told him I'd love for the owner of the company to call you. Is this a good time for him to reach you? He said, yeah, I'm home now, whether it's today or tomorrow. I didn't know you were still doing live, so
let me call him. Text me his name and number. I'll call him right now.
Perfect. Sounds good. Okay, bye. Oh, bye.
Okay, bye. How long do your guys? We're gonna call a seller right now. By the way, how long do your subject to contract properties stay vacant? They stay vacant. We average like 45 days. 45 days. Basically, we close escrow. We renovate it for like 2 weeks, basically, and then it takes a week or two to find somebody, and then it takes another 3 or 4 weeks for them to actually move in. I would say minimum time frame you got to plan on is 45 days. Can you explain your purchase method and exit strategy for your deal Thursday? I'm putting that up on my YouTube channel, on the Real Deal channel. I'll put it's like a 20-minute video. Paul Cody, we are going to call this seller right now. Let's see. I'm not comfortable with that. Okay. Well, then you're probably not a seller. I'm probably not a good buyer for you. It's a long-term relationship that we're entering. If you're not comfortable with it, then I'm probably not a good buyer for you. All of my sellers that sign contracts with me, guys, the difference on seller finance and creative finance is that, and subject twos, is that it's very easy to just walk away from the deal and be like brutally honest with sellers. Whereas wholesale, it's like, I'd rather that's a whole nother conversation for another day. Raul, start alive and close the door. Does that mean close the deal? I just want to see what the initial conversation looks like more than anything. Thanks. Horacio, that must mean you're not making a lot of calls to motivated sellers. We need to get you calling motivated sellers so you know what this sounds like. Sonia Ray, she's one of my private lenders. Shout out Sonia Ray. She's the best. Haven't seen her in a couple months. Can you please share the lender at 80% LTV? Want to talk to our lenders and they're being more conservative now. Sure. Let me pull that up real quick. Guys, I will actually share the information. So a lot of people will say that, oh, I get 90% LTV, I get blah, blah, blah LTV, and then I ask for their lender and they won't give it to me. I'm telling you, let's see. Cody handles that. So I'm going to call Cody real quick.
Hi, you've reached Cody.
When Cody calls me back, I'll give you guys the lender's info. We're currently doing a refinance with somebody right now, and I would pull up the information that's in my email. I would pull it up. Actually, I don't have to share the screen with you guys. Hell yeah. Hold on just a sec. Let's see. Guys, right now I'm going to do a couple things. Anna just sent me the information on a deal, and then also I'm going to pull up the lender on one of our deals. And I'm pulling it up because you guys asked for it, so I'm giving it to you. Okay, the name of the company is TIDAL, Title Loans. I'll put that in here so I can answer the question. They are a national company. They lend nationally. So hopefully that helps you guys. You guys ask, I deliver. All right, hold on a second. Let's call this seller. So,
Hello, Paul.
hey, Paul, this is Pace. Anna told me to give you a call about your property on Cortez. How you doing?
I'm good. How you doing, Pace?
I'm
How
awesome.
you managing this pandemic here?
Dude, it's crazy. Have you ever lived in a world like this?
Where are you at right now?
I'm in Mesa.
Oh, okay.
I'm not too far from you.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, what kind of details did she give you?
She said that you're a new dad, and I thought that was amazing. I wanted to call and congratulate you. I'm a brand new dad myself.
Well, you're probably a lot younger than I am, but
How old are you?
I'm 53.
And
This is my first child.
Bro, that's so amazing. Is it a boy or girl?
Yeah, it's a boy. Yeah, it came out of nowhere. Purely by accident.
Really? Are you excited about it? You pumped up?
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah. That's one of the reasons why I want to sell this property is so I can be a full-time dad and just take care of him.
Love it. So here's the thing I can tell you about being a dad is that, so I've got a baby girl. She's now 18 months. And I swear to you, it was like the blink of an eye. And my wife has been there every day watching her grow and change every single day. And I look and I'm like, I wish I would have taken like a year off of work and just been a full-time dad because I missed that first year of her life other than seeing her in the morning and seeing her at nighttime, you know?
It is. It's been a blessing these last 5 months. I mean, it's changed my attitude on everything. It's been a complete 180-degree turnaround on my entire life. So
Love it. So what's the situation with your work? Are you going to basically take work off for a year, or what's the plan there?
Well, I'm a disabled veteran, so I already get a disability check from the Veterans Administration once a month, and that covers all my bills. So if I was to sell this property, I don't see myself ever having to work again. I could just sit on that little pile of money and just raise my son.
So let me ask you, if I bought the property from you today, where are you going to move? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm living with my ex-wife. We divorced 2 years ago, but like I said, we had this on Valentine's Day. Something happened, and
my man,
now we're together again.
My man. So, well, where'd you guys go on the date?
You know, we had a fight on Valentine's Day, and it was so bad, I walked out, but the makeup from that fight.
Bro, makeup sex is the best.
Well, something happened in 10 years of marriage. It didn't happen.
I freaking love it. That's so amazing. So you're moving back in with her. Your son's already 5 months old. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Awesome. So you don't technically need to go buy another house for right now.
No, I'll just be living there with her in her house.
That's amazing. Okay, great. So Anna indicated, I think you were looking for a certain price on the house.
Yes. Well, it's basically, I just don't want I don't want to sell it at a value that's below the other homes in. I'm not looking. There's not a set price I have in my head. It's whatever Zillow says it is that day.
Okay.
If we have I'm willing to sell it at that. I'm not trying to go $1 over that.
Okay.
Just so that value goes up and down. I mean, so.
Yeah, especially in the light of what's going on in this world right now, right? It's kind of crazy.
Exactly. I mean, like 2 weeks ago, it was worth $287. I haven't looked at its price now, but if it's $267, if it's gone down $20,000 in 2 weeks, I'd still be happy selling it for that.
So here's the challenge: is the price that's on Zillow is always going to be full retail, meaning that it's renovated, it's fully updated, all that stuff. That's what that price means. That's not an as-is price, right? So.
That's right.
Did you have a conversation with Zillow about buying the property?
Nope. You're the first person I've spoken to. I've been getting phone calls and text messages on that house for the last year and a half. And I just decided I'm going to actually respond to. You're the first one I've actually responded to. I'm going to respond to a few more for the rest of this month of April, and basically, whatever investor at the end of the month is going to get me closest to that Zillow price or the highest.
Yeah,
is who I'm going to sell to.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you I already know I'm not a buyer for you.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some good advice though, and I'll at least be here at the end of the month and we can have another conversation. I think most of the investors, the real investors in this market, have stopped buying, at least for the next 30 days. What you're going to do is you're going to get a lot of phone calls from what we call wholesalers, which from time to time I'll wholesale a property as well. But a real buyer who's going to close on your property in this market is not going to pay anywhere near that price.
Right.
And so I don't even want to offend you with an offer. I just am going to tell you flat out, I'm not a good buyer for you. But I think what is the best thing to do is we just put a fork in it for a month and see where you're at in a month, see what other kind of offers you get, and see if we can just
I agree.
talk about it then. It doesn't sound like you're quite ready to move forward anyway. It sounds like you want to field some offers, you want to take your time, and there's no big rush, right?
It is. That's very true.
Got it. So what keeps you from just putting it on the market with a real estate agent?
The hassle, I suppose. I think it's. I've never dealt directly with a cash investor before, but it just sounds like it's a lot easier.
Bro, it's amazing. It's like going to dinner with your ex-wife on Valentine's Day. It's pretty amazing. I mean, for us as an investor, here's the situation. Let's say that your house is worth you said it's worth 287 is what you think it's worth?
That's what I'd like to sell it for. I don't think it's worth that, but that's what I'd like to sell it for.
Okay, yeah. Cool. So let's say you sell it for 287 with a real estate agent. That's really the highest and best way you're going to get the most money for the property. So what's going to happen is if you sell with a real estate agent, you're going to have a couple of months of utilities and stuff like that and headache and whatever else. Then after you pay all your commissions and all that stuff, you're probably going to be closer to probably 255, 260 in your pocket. It doesn't sound like that's the number you want either. Even if somebody came to you today and said, I'll give you 250 for it, it sounds like the answer is no.
Oh, I'd probably take that.
Oh.
I just want, that's why there is a range. I mean, I have a range that basically I just don't want to pay taxes. I like to get the most amount without having to pay any taxes on it. So
love it. Okay. Well, I think here's what I'm going to do. I'm in my office in Mesa. It sounds like I need to do a little bit of research on the property, and maybe we should have a chat in the next couple of days. When are you talking to another investor? You have another phone call set up or anything like that? Maybe I should call you after.
No, I'm really just talking to guys like yourself who are reaching out to me and showing the initiative to do that. I mean, I could call the We Buy Ugly Homes or call some of these guys on TV, but I'm just willing to. I'll just talk to somebody who's doing the elbow grease to trying to find.
Love it.
Some property to buy.
Well, why don't we do this? I'll check back in with you on Friday after I do some research on the property, and maybe we can have a more in detail conversation. Is the house vacant right now? Did you already move in with your ex, or what's the story?
Well, it's still full of stuff.
Got it. Okay, well, that's not a problem, but you're not living there anymore, right?
No, I'm not living there, but I just rather get a lot of that. I'd rather it be a shell. So that's why I'm waiting till the end of the month.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, it sounds like you're not in a rush, and the good thing is neither are we, especially with this whole crazy world that we're living. I feel like I'm Neo in the Matrix right now, dude. Like,
sure.
It's like my wife and I woke up this morning, and she's like, "Is this real? Like, pinch me. Are we gonna like wake up tomorrow and like this is gonna be?" Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I haven't. And I've spoken. My mom's 80 years old, and she's never seen anything like this either. But in a month from now, it could be. I think Arizona's behind the curve. I mean, I think the rest of the country is hurting a little bit more than we are. And, a month from now, we might be in a worse situation from now. So,
yeah.
I mean, let's just wait and see where we're at and, take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, I tell a lot of my sellers right now, they're calling us, maybe a month ago, 2 months ago. I don't know if you know this. I probably don't because haven't been fielding offers yet, but OfferPad, Zillow, Open Door, all these big companies shut off all their home buying for the rest of the year. So that should tell you something. They canceled 1,100 contracts here in Maricopa County 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
So companies like Zillow, that's why I always ask, like, people say, oh, well, my price on Zillow is $280. I'm like, great. What did Zillow say? Like, will they buy it at that price? I'm just wondering if they turned their buying stuff on. I think they turned everything off though. So
I've never met any contact with Zillow. The only thing I use Zillow for is just seeing what my house is worth and what the other homes in the neighborhood are worth. But.
Got it. Well, let's touch base Friday. Have fun with your son, and I'll give you what time is a good time on Friday for me to give you a call?
Well, I'm usually a daddy during the daytime, so after 6 o'clock is a good time.
All right, cool. I'll call you Friday after 6.
Sounds good, Pace.
Thank you, brother. Have a good week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys. So what I did there is I wanted to find out a couple of things. Hopefully that was helpful. And I'm going to tell you guys something really, really important. The most important thing I could tell you on this call. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So when I try and convince people of anything, which I don't do, right? You'll never see me on a call ever trying to convince a seller of shit. Nothing. You ever see me trying to convince a seller of something, karate chop me. Freaking reach through the screen and karate chop me, because a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Boom. Most important thing you'll learn all day long. Okay? Don't ever tell a seller your opinion. Ever. Number one, they don't give a shit what your opinion is. And number two, when you try and tell somebody something, especially like repair costs, name one person in the country that knows more about repair costs than me. I was a GC for 10 years. I was Open Door, OfferPad, and Zillow's contractor for a number of years, opened up multiple markets. There's not many people that know about more about contractor or contracting than I do, right? And same thing with Anna. You guys will see Anna. You heard me on the phone with Anna. Anna is like a powerhouse as far as it goes with construction, but you will never hear me talk to a seller about construction, especially how much construction costs. Because when you start talking to a seller about, oh yeah, the renovation is going to cost me 30 grand and I got to reduce, dude, all you're doing is telling the seller to not trust you, because now you're selling them, right? You're selling them. So because this was all about conversion, I'm going to give you guys a little timeline with a conversation. If you go back and listen to me in my call, you'll hear that this is how my calls go every time. Can you see all that? Okay, so this is my timeline. Okay, this is my timeline. What this means is it means validate, question, validate, question, validate, question, validate, question. You will very rarely see me make a statement or share an opinion with a seller. Ever. Okay? Ever, 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 ever. Okay? You'll never see me try and convince a seller of anything. And once I start convincing a seller, what does this C mean? It means close. But guess who's closing? Did you guys hear me talk about price either? Did I name a price at all? Did I ever name my price to the seller? All you guys are so confused. How does Pace close sellers without ever talking to them about his price? I will never name my price to a seller. I will only question, validate, question, validate, question. So you'll hear me say, well, probably sounds like, probably I'm not a good buyer. And within 2 or 3 minutes after saying that, and then validating what he said and then questioning him, validating what he said and then questioning him, he then dropped his price $30,000, actually $37,000. He originally wanted $287, now he's at $250. Still not a good deal, guys. The deal is a deal at $200. He's $87,000 over market value. Okay? Now, what the right approach would be is to call him up and just say, hey man, how's it going with the other investors, right? Let them beat him up a little bit. He's so far that I've already built good rapport. I've already built the rapport, so we're going to be able to have multiple conversations. But then on top of it, yeah, what did I say? Did I not say validate? I'm sorry. That's what I'm trying to say. I thought I said validate. Yeah, validate question, validate question. So yeah, you'll never hear me say give the seller my price. And that's how we convert. Believe it or not, most people are, the more offers you send, the more deals you're going to get. I disagree. The more conversations you have, the more deals you're going to get. Stop getting hung up on making offers. You want to be able to have a normal conversation with a normal human being. I have mastered the art of making it feel like I am on a conversation with a seller that's almost my best friend. That is every conversation I have with a seller, just like that. So I hear other people that I'm shadowing and I'm listening to their calls, and it seems so fake, so contrived. And I'm like, man, why do you guys want to put yourself through this? Yeah, I don't need to talk about the condition of the house, Paul. I don't need to talk about condition of the house because we haven't gotten to timeline, price, and his motivation. We got his motivation. What's his motivation? We kind of got his timeline, but now we're stuck on price. I'm not going to move to the condition of the property until I get him down. Okay? Anyway, we've been on this call an hour and 46 minutes. I got a family to take care of and all that stuff. It's almost 7 o'clock my time. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this. I'm going to answer one more question before we wrap up. Yeah, don't sound fake or robotic. Oh, what do you mean by validate? So it's ironic that I shouldn't say that. That's very, like, it's ironic. The most important thing I've learned about women, I have 8 sisters, guys. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have 8 sisters, okay? When a woman asks me what I mean by validate, it's ironic because the most important thing that my dad ever taught me is always validate a woman. And when a woman asks me, what do you mean validate? Instead of, so Kush, which is a freaking amazing name, by the way. I love that name. Let me ask you a question. Your husband, your significant other, when you go to them and you're complaining about something that happened during your day or you're just venting, do you want them to solve that problem for you, or do you just want them to validate your emotions in that moment? You don't want them to try and solve everything. As men, this is something it took me a long time. Men are stupid and we're stubborn. So when we hear a problem, we want to solve it. So when a woman tells us, our girlfriend, our wife, our significant other, or even employees, they'll say, oh man, today was such a hard day. Most men will go, well, shit, man, go have an energy drink or go do something and get over it. Just get over it. You're not validating her emotions, right? So with a seller, when they have an opinion about something, I'm not trying to fight them on the opinion. I just validate, yeah, I can see why you feel that way. 100%. That totally makes so much sense. I validate before I make a question. Then when I make a question, they answer it. I then validate their answer before I go into another question. So validate. Stop trying to convince them. Stop trying to sell them. 100%. Matt Reed is right. Yes. So just listen, repeat. Sounds like, yeah, 100%. But we all hate it. My wife points it out to me all the time. She's like, you just want to solve the problem of everything all the time. That's your problem. I'm like, thank you for catching me. I do stupid stuff all the time, but validate and then ask a question. When they give you the answer to the question, validate their answer and then ask another question. You never hear me talking about myself unless it's specifically tied to something he already said. So he brought up his baby. That's why I brought up my baby, right? Commonalities. He says, I'm a baby. I got a son. Oh my God. Or I'm a newest dad. Oh my gosh, I'm a new dad too. That's awesome. How are you feeling? I don't make it about me. I just say, hey, we have some common threads. By the way, how is that going? I then throw it back on him. I validate him. Then I ask a question. That is how all of my conversations go with the seller. Validate, question, validate, question, validate, question, validate, question. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. What I would ask you guys, do me a favor. None of you guys have paid me anything. None of you guys have done me any favors. None of you guys have sent me sushi or Monster energy drinks or anything. Do me a favor and go and invite 2 or 3 people to our Facebook group. Let's grow this Facebook group. Give me something in return. Go invite 3 or 4 people to this Facebook group. Let's build this Facebook group up to a point where we're giving even more people value. That's what I would really, really like to get in return. Alex, thank you. My wife actually would appreciate that. So thank you guys. I appreciate all you guys tuning in a lot. I want to bring more value to you, and I want to bring more value to other people that you know. So please go invite your friends to this group. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We will be doing another one of these in the next couple of weeks. I'm sorry. I think we're doing another one Thursday. So tune in Thursday, and I'll call more sellers for you guys. Thanks.